I woke up on the kitchen floor with the taste of blood in my mouth. My husband was sitting at the table eating a salad, just casually eating, while I was sprawled out at his feet. The prenup I'd signed 15 years ago was spread out in front of him, and when I tried to sit up, the room spun. "You have until this weekend to pack," he said, not even looking at me. The locks changed Saturday morning. I'm Linda, I'm 40, and 3 days ago, my husband walked in on me in the bathroom and saw the hickeys another man left on my body. What Carl didn't know, what I didn't know, was that he'd been recording every phone call I'd made for the past 8 years. Every conversation with my sister. Every vulnerable admission. Every moment I thought was private. He'd been building a case against me like I was a criminal. Not his wife, but here's what he also didn't know. While he was making me sign a prenup to protect my tiny $200,000 trust fund, and demanding absolute transparency, he was hiding millions. He was the secret owner of the company he worked at. He'd structured his entire financial life to keep me from ever knowing the truth. This is the story of how we both destroyed each other. How his obsession with catching me cheating made him blind to his own massive fraud. And how the prenup he used as a weapon became the thing that took him down. Asterisk, I should probably tell you how it started. Not the affair, we'll get to that. I mean how I ended up married to a man who would step over my unconscious body to finish his lunch. I met Carl when I was 22, fresh out of college working at a bank. He was 25, ex-Army communications specialist, confident in this quiet way that made me feel safe. I'd gone to Catholic school, had maybe 2 real dates, was basically terrified of men. When he offered to help me carry my food tray at a job fair, I thought it was the sweetest thing anyone had ever done. We dated for 2 years. He was attentive, accomplished, had patents for some tech gadgets he'd invented. I was the shy Polish Ukrainian girl with an Indian great-grandmother who'd left me a modest trust fund. 200K. Do you get when I turned 25 or got married? Everything was perfect until he proposed. That's when my colleague, Jack, the guy who administered my trust at the bank, suggested I get a prenup. Just to protect yourself, he said. You never know. So I brought it up to Carl. He lost his mind, screaming about trust. About how dare I question his loyalty. He stormed out of my apartment, and a week later, he sent back the engagement ring with a prenup of his own. One so vicious I cried reading it. Sign this or eat shit and die. Basically. When I called him furious, he started laughing. Now you know how I felt, he said. Then he sent me a fair version with one addition he insisted on. A clause that said if either of us committed adultery, we'd forfeit everything from the marriage. I should have seen it then. The way he turned my reasonable request into psychological warfare. The way he made me feel guilty for protecting myself while he was already 10 steps ahead. But I was 24 and in love and didn't know any better. So I signed. We got married. And for 13 years, I thought we were happy. Asterisk, Carl was a good provider. Flowers just because. Concerts and plays. Weekend trips all over the country. On paper, he did everything right, but emotionally, he was a vault. Our sex life became transactional. Scheduled. He started tracking frequency like it was a system to optimize. I'm not kidding. He had a spreadsheet. 3 times a week, rotating positions, duration noted. I felt like a maintenance task on his Google Calendar. Around year 13, I started feeling invisible. I'd try to talk to him about it. And he'd solve it with a date night or a surprise trip, never actually connecting. Never asking how I felt. Just fixing the problem and moving on. I told my sister I was fantasizing about feeling desired again. About being seen. That's when Jack started paying attention to me at work. Jack Sampson. My trust fund administrator. The guy who'd suggested the prenup in the first place. He was charming, remembered details about my day, asked how I felt instead of what I accomplished. Everything Carl wasn't. It started with long lunches. Trust officer meetings, we called them. Then drinks after work. Then one afternoon in a hotel room where I told myself I could just talk to him, just feel wanted for an hour. I crossed the line. Multiple times, and I hated myself for it. But I also felt alive for the first time in years. I started limiting intimacy with Carl, making excuses. Turning off lights, avoiding the things I used to love because the guilt was eating me alive. I shaved for Jack when I wouldn't for Carl. I let him leave marks on my body that I hid under turtlenecks and long sleeves. I became someone I didn't recognize. Then one night, Carl came home early. I was in the bathroom getting ready for bed. Door cracked open, and I heard him walk past. Didn't think anything of it. I just gotten out of the shower, towel on my waist, and I was checking my phone when he walked back. Pushed the door open. Saw me standing there naked. Saw the hickey on my left breast, the one Jack left 2 days ago. Saw the ones on the inside of my thighs. I froze. Actually couldn't move. My brain just stopped. He didn't yell. Didn't scream. Just looked at me with this terrifyingly calm expression and said, "Meet me in the kitchen in 15 minutes. Or I'm filing for divorce in the morning." Then he walked away. I don't remember getting dressed. My hands were shaking so bad I couldn't button my jeans. I kept thinking maybe I could explain, maybe I could lie. Maybe this was all a nightmare. When I came downstairs, the prenup was on the table. The one with the adultery clause I'd completely forgotten about. Carl was eating. Just sitting there with a salad and a glass of water like we were about to discuss weekend plans. "Did you shave for him?" he asked, voice still calm. "When you wouldn't for me." Did he complain more than I did about body hair getting in his teeth? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. "I never put a hickey on you anywhere," he continued. "I didn't want to destroy the perfection of your body. But I guess Jack needed to mark his territory." That's when I started crying. Ugly crying. The kind where you can't breathe. "Here's how this works," Carl said. "You have until this weekend to move out. I'm keeping the house. The cars. Everything. You violated the prenup. You get nothing." I tried to say something, I don't even know what, and the room started spinning. Next thing I knew, I was on the floor and Carl was stepping over me to put his bowl in the sink. I woke up in the guest room with the worst headache of my life. My phone had 17 missed calls from my sister. I tried to leave for work, but my car wouldn't start. Carl had canceled the lease overnight. I tried to get into the house when I got back from the bank. Took an Uber. 45 minutes each way. Humiliating. And the locks were changed. The security code was different. I called Carl screaming. And he said, "Too bad, so sad," and hung up. That's when I knew this wasn't just a divorce. This was war. I moved in with my sister that night. Showed up with 2 suitcases of clothes I grabbed before the locks changed. And cried for 6 hours straight. She was surprisingly gentle. Didn't judge. Just held me and said, "We'll figure this out." The next day, I got served at work. Carl was suing me for adultery under the prenup. Suing Jack for alienation of affection. Suing the bank for allowing the affair on company property. He'd closed all our joint accounts, over $400,000 just gone. Removed me from every investment. Cancelled my health insurance. My lawyer was this no-nonsense woman named Patricia who looked at the paperwork and said, "Well, he's certainly thorough. But there might be a problem here." "What problem?" I asked. "I signed the prenup. I cheated. He has me." She tapped the financial disclosure section. "This says he disclosed all assets at the time of signing." "Did he?" I stared at her. "I mean, yeah. He was working as a repair specialist. Made decent money. Had some royalties from his patents. Nothing else?" "No." She leaned back in her chair. "We're going to need to verify that. Because if he hid assets during the prenup negotiation, the entire agreement is invalid. Fraud in the inducement." That's when the first crack appeared in Carl's perfect plan. Discovery is a beautiful thing. That's what Patricia said when she handed me the file 3 weeks later. We'd subpoenaed Carl's financial records, and what we found made me physically sick. Carl had been the owner of the company he worked at for 8 years. Not an employee. The owner. A silent owner with a CEO he'd sworn to secrecy. He'd structured it so even I, his wife, didn't know. Separate LLCs, hidden accounts, income funneled through consulting. Fees and royalty payments that looked legitimate, but were actually Distributions from a company worth over $10 million. While he was making me sign a prenup to protect my tiny $200,000 trust fund. While he was screaming about transparency and honesty. While he was acting like my colleagues. Suggestion to protect myself was the ultimate betrayal. He'd been hiding millions. The prenup's toast, Patricia said. He entered into it in bad faith. Concealed his true financial position. That's textbook fraud. I just sat there staring at the documents. All those years. All those fights about trust. All those lectures about vows and loyalty, and he'd been lying the whole time. But it got worse. Patricia's investigator found something else. Something that made everything make sense in the worst possible way. Carl had installed a recording device on our home phone 3 years into our marriage. Some kind of computer system that was supposed to be an answering machine but had a bug when it got more than 5 calls in 24 hours. It started recording everything. He'd kept it running for 8 years. Every conversation I'd had with my sister. Every call with Jack. Every vulnerable moment I thought was private. He'd been listening. Recording. Building a case. Is that legal? I asked Patricia. Absolutely not. It's illegal wiretapping in this state. He can't use any of it in court. But he told his lawyer he has hundreds of hours of proof, which he obtained illegally. The recordings are inadmissible. And now we can sue him for invasion of privacy. I started laughing. Couldn't help it. Carl had been so proud of his secret weapon, so sure he had me trapped. And the whole time it was going to destroy him. Asterisk asterisk. Retention checkpoint 13 o'clock. New revelation. Carl's entire strategy is illegal. But what about Jack? Linda's trust fund? The bank's liability? Asterisk asterisk, but I wasn't done discovering betrayals. The next bombshell came from the bank's internal investigation. Because when Carl sued them for allowing the affair, they started digging into Jack's conduct. What they found made my affair look like nothing. Jack had been embezzling from my trust fund. For 5 years. Starting right around when he first suggested I get a prenup. The affair wasn't about desire. It was about distraction. He was seducing me to keep me from looking too closely at my accounts, from asking questions. From noticing that my $200,000 trust fund was down to $47,000. He'd been stealing from me the entire time he was sleeping with me. I threw up when Patricia told me. Actually ran to her office bathroom and threw up. Every I love you. Every you're so beautiful. Every moment I'd felt seen and wanted. It was all a con. He was using me. The bank's going to settle, Patricia said when I came out. They're liable for Jack's actions. He was their employee, managing client funds. This is a massive breach. How much? I'm pushing for 7 figures. For both the embezzlement and the emotional distress. They'll pay to keep this quiet. Asterisk that night. I sat in my sister's guest room and made a list. What Carl did. Hid millions in assets during prenup negotiation. Fraud. Illegally recorded me for 8 years, wiretapping. Used illegal recordings to threaten me, blackmail. Structured his finances to deceive me. Ongoing fraud. What Jack did. Embezzled from my trust fund. TAEFT. Seduced me to cover his tracks. Manipulation. Violated his fiduciary duty. Professional misconduct. Asterisk asterisk what? I did. Asterisk asterisk. Cheated on my husband. Adultery. On paper. I was the worst person in this story. But the deeper we dug, the more I realized I'd been surrounded by men who saw me as either a liability to manage or a resource to exploit. Carl didn't love me. He loved control. Jack didn't want me. He wanted access, and I'd been so desperate to feel seen that I'd walked right into both their traps. But here's the thing about being underestimated. People get sloppy. Carl thought his illegal recordings would terrify me into silence. Instead, they gave me leverage. Jack thought the affair would keep me distracted forever. Instead, it triggered an investigation that exposed him. The bank thought they could quietly fire Jack and move on. Instead, they were facing lawsuits from both me and Carl. Everyone had underestimated everyone else. And I was the only one who could see the whole board, asterisk. Patricia filed an amended complaint. We weren't just defending against Carl's adultery claim anymore. We were going on offense. Count 1. Fraud in the inducement. Prenup. Invalid due to concealed assets. Count 2. Illegal. Wiretapping. Civil damages for invasion of privacy. Count 3. Intentional. Infliction of emotional distress. The recordings plus kicking me out. Count 4. Fraudulent. Concealment during marriage. He owed me disclosure under state law. We also filed a separate suit against Jack and the bank. Count 1. Embezzlement. Trust fund theft. Asterisk asterisk count 2. Asterisk asterisk breach of fiduciary duty, sleeping with client he was supposed to protect. Count 3. Fraud. Concealing the theft through manipulation. Carl's lawyer called Patricia screaming, "You can't do this. She violated the prenup. She committed adultery with a man who was robbing her," Patricia said calmly, "while your client was illegally recording her and hiding millions in assets. I'm pretty sure a jury's going to be sympathetic. We have recordings that you obtained illegally that are inadmissible, that expose your client to criminal wiretapping charges if he tries to use them." Silence on the other end. "Here's what's going to happen," Patricia continued. "You're going to settle. You're going to pay my client for the fraud, the wiretapping, and the emotional distress. And you're going to do it quietly before I start seizing the state attorney general's office on these filings." Asterisk asterisk. Timeline stamp. 1 week later, asterisk asterisk Carl showed up to the settlement conference, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His lawyer put an offer on the table. $500,000 to go away. Split the house proceeds 50-50. Both sign NDAs. Patricia didn't even look at it. My client wants $2.3 million, the house, her car back, and a public apology for the wiretapping. Non-negotiable. That's absurd. Your client committed multiple felonies. Fraud, wiretapping, blackmail. My client made a mistake in her marriage. There's a difference. I watched Carl's face turn red. Watched him try to control it, try to maintain that calm exterior. Fail. "She cheated," he said, voice shaking. "She violated our vows. You violated the law," Patricia said. "Multiple laws. And hid millions from her while demanding she disclose a $200,000 trust fund. A trust fund, by the way, that her affair partner was actively stealing from while you were busy recording her phone calls instead of, I don't know, being an actual husband. That broke him." He stood up so fast his chair fell over. "This is bullshit. I gave her everything. You gave her control," Patricia said. "Not love. There's a difference." Asterisk. The mediation went nowhere. Carl refused to settle for anything close to what we wanted. So we went to court. That's when things got interesting. During Carl's deposition, Patricia asked him about the company. How long he'd owned it. How much it was worth. Why he never told me. He claimed it was to protect the business from divorce liability. "So you entered into marriage planning for divorce?" Patricia asked. "I was being prudent. You lied to your fiancé about your net worth during prenup negotiations because you were being prudent." "I didn't lie. I just didn't disclose the $10 million business you secretly owned." He didn't answer. "Mr. Langston, did you or did you not demand that your then fiancée disclose her $200,000 trust fund?" "Yes." "Did you tell her the prenup required absolute transparency?" "Yes." "Did you scream at her about trust and honesty when she suggested protecting herself?" His lawyer objected. Patricia ignored him. "Did you tell her that forsaking all others meant something? That vows mattered?" Carl's jaw clenched. "Yes. While you were hiding $10 million and planning to record her phone calls for the next decade." "I wasn't planning. The device was installed 3 years into your marriage." "You kept recordings for 8 years. You printed lists of call durations. You save specific conversations to CDs. That's not a bug. That's surveillance. And that's when Carl made his fatal mistake. He leaned forward and said, I needed to protect myself from women like her. Patricia smiled. Women like her? You mean women who trust their husbands? Women who disclose their assets honestly? Women who don't secretly record their spouses? The room went quiet. Let me be very clear, Mr. Langston. My client made a mistake. She had an affair. She's not denying that. But you built a marriage on fraud, deception, and illegal surveillance. You hid millions. You violated federal wiretapping laws. You used your wife's private conversations as blackmail. And now you're sitting here claiming you needed to protect yourself from her honesty. Carl didn't answer. Just stared at the table. We're done here, his lawyer said. Asterisk asterisk timeline stamp. 2 days later. Asterisk asterisk, the bank settled first. They paid me $1.8 million for Jack's embezzlement and breach of fiduciary duty. Plus fully restored my trust fund with interest. Jack was fired, arrested for grand theft, and ultimately sentenced to 4 years in prison. But not before one final moment of perfect justice. When the police came to serve him at the bank, he ran. Literally ran through the lobby toward my office. I guess to beg me not to press charges or threaten me or something. Carl was there in the lobby, meeting with his own trust officer about moving his assets. Jack saw him, panicked, and threw a punch. Hit Carl square in the face in front of a sheriff's deputy. 3 bank employees and security cameras. Assault charges. Restraining order. Everything. Carl's lawyer tried to spin it as some kind of vindication. See? The man who seduced his wife is violent. But it didn't matter. The assault happened because Jack was being arrested for embezzlement. It just made the whole thing more documented, more public, more impossible for the bank to bury. Carl's settlement came 3 weeks later. His lawyer called Patricia on a Friday afternoon. We'll agree to $2.1 million, the house and the car. No public apology. Both parties sign NDAs. $2.3 million and she gets to make one public statement about the wiretapping. Non-negotiable. Silence. Ben, fine, draft it. I signed the papers in Patricia's office. Didn't feel triumphant. Didn't feel vindicated. Just felt tired. You won, Patricia said. You know that, right? The prenup's invalidated. The recordings are inadmissible. He's paying you more than twice what the adultery clause would have given him. You won. We both lost, I said. I cheated on him. He destroyed what was left. He didn't destroy it. He revealed what it always was. She slid another paper across the desk. Here's the settlement breakdown. $2.3 million from Carl, $1.8 million from the bank. Your trust fund restored to $247,000 with interest. The house is worth about $890,000, all yours. You're walking away with over $5 million in assets. I stared at the numbers. All that money. All that security. Built on the wreckage of 15 years and 2 betrayals. What about the public statement? I asked. Patricia handed me her phone. I drafted something. You can post it or not. Up to you. I read it. I want to address recent rumors about my divorce. Yes, I had an affair. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not hiding from it either. What I am speaking out about is this: my ex-husband illegally recorded my phone calls for 8 years without my knowledge or consent. He hid millions in assets while demanding I disclose my modest trust fund during our prenup negotiations. And when I made a mistake, he used that illegal surveillance as blackmail. No one deserves to be recorded in their own home. No one deserves to have their private conversations weaponized. I'm sharing this so other women know if something feels off. If someone demands transparency they don't give, if your gut says you're being watched, trust it. I didn't. I should have. Post it, I said. The statement went semi-viral. Not huge, but enough. Carl's business partner saw it. Started asking questions. Turned out the CEO he'd sworn to secrecy wasn't thrilled about being part of a fraud scheme. The company imploded within 6 months. Carl tried to sue me for defamation. Patricia sent one letter citing truth as an absolute defense, and he dropped it. Jack got out of prison after 3 years. I heard through my sister he's working at a car wash now, can't get licensed for financial services again. I felt nothing hearing that. Not satisfaction. Not pity, nothing. The bank reorganized their trust division. New policies. New oversight. Too late for me. But maybe it helps someone else. I sold the house. Couldn't stand being in it. Bought a condo in a different neighborhood, started therapy twice a week. Began the long process of figuring out who I was when I wasn't performing for men. Asterisk. My therapist asked me last week if I regret the affair. I told her, every single day. I became someone I'm ashamed of. I hurt someone who didn't deserve it. At least not that way. Then she asked if I regret discovering who I married. And, for the first time, I said no without crying. Because the man who demanded absolute trust while secretly recording me, hiding millions in assets, and treating our marriage like a legal chess game wasn't the partner I thought I married. He was a control freak who saw me as a liability to manage, not a person to love. Carl wanted me to eat shit and die. If I didn't sign his Prenup in the end. Not a person as a liability to manage. Not a person to love. Carl wanted me to eat shit and die. If I didn't sign his Prenup in the end. We both choked on our own dishonesty. But at least I'm free now. Asterisk, I'm 40 years old. Single. Financially secure. In therapy working through what I did and why I did it. And I've learned something important. When someone demands your complete transparency while hiding their own secrets. When they turn your mistakes into weapons while excusing their own deception. When they love control more than they love you, that's not a marriage worth saving. Some of you watching this have been there. The invisible wife. The affair you hate yourself for. The man who tracked your cycles and optimized your intimacy like you were a system to debug. You're not alone. And you're not crazy for wanting to feel seen. If you're in it now, if something feels off. If someone's demanding transparency they don't give. If you're being recorded or tracked or monitored, trust your gut. Get a lawyer. Document everything. Protect yourself. Because the person screaming loudest about your loyalty is often the one hiding the biggest lies. That's my story. More betrayal and empowerment stories every week right here on Broken Vows. Drop a comment if you've been through something similar. I read everyone. Thanks for listening. And remember, you deserve someone who sees you as a person, not a problem to solve. Asterisk, I'm 40 years old. Single. Financially secure. In therapy working through what I did and why I did it. And I've learned something important. When someone demands your complete transparency while hiding their own secrets. When they turn your mistakes into weapons while excusing their own deception. When they love control more than they love you, that's not a marriage worth saving. Some of you watching this have been there. The invisible wife. The affair you hate yourself for. The man who tracked your cycles and optimized your intimacy like you were a system to debug. You're not alone. And you're not crazy for wanting to feel seen. If you're in it now, if something feels off. If someone's demanding transparency they don't give. If you're being recorded or tracked or monitored, trust your gut. Get a lawyer. Document everything. Protect yourself. Because the person screaming loudest about your loyalty is often the one hiding the biggest lies. That's my story. More betrayal and empowerment stories every week right here on Broken Vows. Drop a comment if you've been through something similar. I read everyone. Thanks for listening. And remember, you deserve someone who sees you as a person, not a problem to solve.